This is the Business Storytelling Show with Christoph Trapp. Name a top 20 storytelling podcast and a top 5% podcast globally. Christoph chats with thought leaders and experts to share tips and tricks that can help you tell your company's stories better to drive business results. Available wherever you listen to podcasts, live streamed on major social media channels, and part of the DB&A television network, available on most U.S. television sets and streaming on Roku and Amazon Fire. Here's Christoph with today's episode. Let's go.
Let's go, business storytellers. Oh, we have some technical issues there. That's what happens when you do live TV. Don't put the graphics on the show too early. But you know what? We're going to roll with it. Today, that may have been an action that made my editor drink, my video editor, not maybe my writing editor, but stuff happens. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Mistakes happen, things happen as you're creating content. But there's things out there that we don't have to do. I'll give you an example. The other day I wrote a thing that said, company launches a new advisory committee. Why is the world new in there? Why? If you're going to launch it, it's new. Your audience will thank you. So today we actually have one of the authors of this wonderful book, Why Editors Drink, on the show, Rob Reinalda. He wrote it with his wife, I believe, who did all the graphics, if I recall that correctly. And we want to talk about how do we use humor? How do we use clarity in our business storytelling? And why in the world does it even matter? Are we just being nerds about, using the right terminology, or why does anybody care? That's what I want to find out. So, Rob, welcome to the show.
Hi. Boom. Boom.
We always give fist bumps to each other. Nice to see you. And as I said, I probably made my video editor drink right there with that little mistake at the beginning. But so tell me, why is all this stuff important? Why did you write the book? And, what do we take from it?
Well, communication is the cornerstone, the spine of communication is clarity. Because if your message isn't clear, then it won't get across. Part of the problem with a lot of writing today, especially business writing, lies in word choice. And if people are using too many words, if they're using 18 words to say 7 words worth of content or messaging, then they are wasting the reader's time. They're wasting their own time, and they're not getting the message across in a way that will be powerful, so it lands. What the longest chapter in Why Editors Drink is about bloat. It's bloated writing. It's using too many words, redundancies, repetitions, filler words, tautologies, as you suggested with launching a new product. And people don't get their message across in a concise, efficient way.
And so when it comes to, especially in corporate America, and many of you have heard me rant about this before, but how much is it that the writer is doing it, and how much is it that it's just the crappy culture somebody created? I'll give you an example. If I'm writing something and 12 people edit it, none of them have a copywriting background, how do I have any chance to create a good piece of content?
Well, it lies first in knowing what your message is supposed to be. If you have a really good idea of what you're trying to get across, that helps you focus. And once you focus, you can get the message across. You can use more colorful words, more powerful words, and use economy of language to get that message across. The problem is that we've fallen into this write the way you talk notion, which was great for getting rid of corporate speak. And this is what the summary at the end of the book is. But the problem is that it's sort of like business casual, rather than simply getting away from the stuffiness of corporate speak or the corporate wardrobe. We've gone too far. We've slid beyond casual and comfortable and conversational into slovenliness. So there's a recklessness, a carelessness about the way people talk, and that translates and transcends into written words, and that becomes problematic.
You know what's interesting about that too? I really I didn't think about the history of why we would tell people to write like they talk. So I really appreciate that history lesson there. What's interesting to me is I would never write like I talk because you know what? Every sentence would be super long because I mean, think about what we're saying. If you actually transcribe what we're saying, these are super long sentences because we don't have to make shorter sentences or longer sentences or whatever. And there's stuff in between them. So it's interesting how any advice that's ever shared anywhere gets taken out of context or gets taken too far or
Right.
whatever.
The pendulum swings too far. An example I like to give in my talks is if you listen to the talking heads on cable news shows, they might be erudite politicians or statespersons or Pulitzer Prize winning columnists. And once they start talking, as you say, they're run on sentences. There are redundancies. The grammar might not line up exactly. So we as editors, and if you're a writer, presumably you're editing your own stuff as you put it forth or as you refine it.
Yep.
You hone it. You make sure that um, it's not too formal, but that it's not all over the place either. There has to be some structure, some consistency to it, and as much as we can, we try to focus it and get it down so it is salient and cogent.
So what's interesting about the whole bloated chapter and discussion is why is it so difficult to just get to the point? Now, I'll give you a quick example, quick story from myself. I have the same filler words that I'm not sure I will ever get rid of. But now I use Grammarly, and Grammarly gets rid of them for me. It flags them every time, you know, it I delete them every time. I usually don't catch them myself when I write them, but I certainly see them when Grammarly catches them. So there's tools out there now that help us, you know, do some of those things if we want the help. But run-on sentences still happen. I see them all the time in plenty of writing. Why is content so bloated? Why is it just because we're so in love with every word that comes out of our mouth, or why is that a problem?
Um, I think primarily it's because we're not attuned to tightening. I
Mhm.
had the privilege of writing for newspapers and editing for newspapers for decades. And when I was at the New York Daily News, of course, it's a tabloid. So the news hole, the space for the articles themselves, is much more condensed. So you have to tighten. And in some cases, you have to buy a line or two or three. That is to say,
Mhm.
the copy is just too long for the printed space that's allotted for a given article. And rather than just lop off a sentence and or something mid paragraph, if you can find a way to uh, use your scalpel rather than your axe or machete to carve out little unnecessary words within the text or find one word that will do the work of four, then you're better off. You don't lose any of the meat. I gave a talk at ACES, the Society
Mhm.
for Copy Editing, a couple of years ago, and my topic was butchering copy, and that is cutting away the gristle, fat, and bone to get to the meat of your message. And one of my slides was cut it in half. If you write 700 words and you can say it in 350 or 375 roughly,
Mhm.
then you're ahead of the game. And then because readers will look at a block of copy, and they might not do a physical word count with Microsoft Word, but they'll see, oh,
Yep.
I won't read that much, but I will read this much. I'll read that much. And if it's broken up and if it's powerful from start to finish, you'll engage them and they'll keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. And you've got them in 300 and some words instead of 700, which they might just flip away from.
And you know what? Today, I mean, we know for sure. I mean, there's been studies done on this that most people online skim anyways. So you're not just writing for the people who actually will read it. Like, I mean, I read when I go into a New York Times article, I read the whole thing usually,
Mhm.
unless they just go on and on and on and on and on. But I typically do read the whole thing. And a funny side story: there is a Twitter account, the typos of the New York Times. So some of you might enjoy that. I don't know if you've seen that before, but that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, so anyway, what I was going to say is, as the former editor of the Gazette in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Mark Bowden, that's been a while here, but he said, as an editor, your job literally is to put 10 pounds of content into a 5-pound bag.
Right.
But and that might be true, but what can writers do to make sure their content is more concise before it gets to an editor? And especially, there was a study that Sarah, don't remember her last name now, in Australia published, that most corporate content creators, or many, I don't know if it's most, but many, don't even have an editor. Can you believe that?
Well, I think the first thing to do is know what your focus is. Know your
Hmm.
primary theme, know your principal message, and then know the 3 or 4 supporting points that you have, that you want to offer to bolster that initial premise or contention, assertion, whatever, to make your point and to make it not just to support it with evidence, but to make it resonate and to make the writers assimilate it and hold
Yeah.
on to it. So there comes not just getting rid of bloated language, but using powerful, colorful words. They don't have to be 18 syllables long, but they do have to be the right word. If you can really uh, hit the bullseye with your word choice. And that's why I recommend using a thesaurus and a dictionary to not only look up the possibilities for a word, but also to make sure that that word choice is exactly what you mean. And then over time, as you get more practiced in this and more familiar, and you broaden your vocabulary and you understand the nuances of certain words, then then the right word will come to you. It will appear to you as if in a
Yeah.
vision, and it will be there at your fingertips without having to think of it.
Yeah. So I also use Grammarly for that. You just highlight a word and it tells you a different word. So that's my online thesaurus to kind of keep track on that. So let's shift a little bit to the important. So we talked about clarity a little bit here, and let's shift to humor just a little bit. And I know
Gladly.
you try to create humor in storytelling, and like in your book. I mean, you could have just written a book, honestly, right? That says, here's all the crap writers do that drives us crazy, but you didn't, right? You said, here's the stuff that drives us to drink, and cheers, that's worth a martini or whatever. Um, why
Mhm.
is that kind of storytelling important, and how can brands use that in their storytelling?
Well, when I started writing pieces on grammar and usage and syntax and linguistics, uh, after I got left newspapers and got into online publishing, um, I it just became a natural way for me to do it. I think most editors, most writers, um, love words and love word play. So using puns and peculiar names like Throckmorton and Myrtle and Cheswick and all those the goofy devices that I use help to make it memorable. But it's also there's a little bit of Mary Poppins in there too. the spoonful of sugar that helps you remember the grammar lesson, the word choice, whatever. As far as the drinking motif came out, that derived from a particularly taxing day, and I mentioned this in the introduction of the book. I handed to the managing editor at my company a little post-it note that said, "Pass the gin." It was a rough day, and got a laugh out of her. And then that became sort of a punchline, a catchphrase. And from there, I thought, well, I could do a whole presentation using my acting background to pretend to get drunk as I was, reading bad examples. Well, the presentation never materialized, but the book did. And with Teresa, whom you mentioned before, we worked up. That's my wife, who designed the book cover and did all the illustrations and all the formatting. Brilliant artist. She and I worked and made sure that all of the chapters had drinking references to button up the chapter. She did her illustrations using drink motifs for to lead into the chapter, to illustrate the chapter title, and so that just became thematic. And curiously, we don't drink. So
That's interesting. I mean, I thought it certainly. People can relate to it and figure out. I think themes work. I've done
mhm.
many projects where it's like a theme you pull through and you remember it better, right? And you can also you can circle back to that, and as you mentioned, share that with other people. Interesting. So how do we?
Well, and
Uh,
that's what. Let me
go ahead.
interrupt. That's why fables work,
Right.
and homilies and those sorts of things. If you illustrate story, if you illustrate themes, again, the primary message, uh, with a story, with a narrative, with something memorable, then it will stick. Then there will be a visual image or an auditory uh, ping that, oh yeah, that's right, I remember that now, and so it sticks.
It sticks, and that's kind of what we want our content to do, to begin with. So you've seen certainly the shift from print to digital. So have I. Um, and you always hear people say, "Oh, because of the new thing, everything is going to hell." Right? Everything is bad because of the new thing. Whatever. And I don't think that's necessarily a new thing or people are saying right now. I think people said that 40 years ago, and probably people said it 90 years ago about whatever was happening at that time. Have you seen? Have you seen a shift in the quality of content in recent time, or how do you feel about that?
There has been a shift in quality, mostly because uh, news outlets and corporations um, don't hire or don't retain experienced editors, and that creates problems. There's less need for the type of tightening editing that I specialize in, because the internet is fairly infinite.
Mhm.
Headlines now are 18, 20 words on a story, whereas before you had 6 words to write a headline, and you had to get your point across, and maybe 12 words for a deck head that would go underneath the main headline. So in that regard, that tightening is out the window. It also the because an online story can run 3,000 words or 800 words or whatever, where it would previously have had to been half that, literally. But also because um, there's been an undermining of facts. Not to get too political, but there
Mhm.
has been a concerted undermining of facts over the past 20, 25 years. And that has been as much has led to the demise of newspapers as much as going from newsprint to online writing.
Yeah, I mean there's so many different rabbit holes we can go down here. The
Yeah,
demise of
yeah.
newspapers. I mean I don't know what it is. I think it's an interesting business model to begin with that doesn't work as well today just because things are changing. But so the one thing when you were just talking about the content creation online, first of all, yes, articles can be longer if they actually have the content, the depth. So I just actually just looked at an article I updated earlier, had 4,000 words. I would argue that most everything in there has relevance. It's not
Mhm.
just fluff. It's a lot of people being quoted. It's a lot of content. In my newspaper career, when we had a printed newspaper, I don't think I ever wrote an article that was 4,000 words. I'm
Right.
pretty sure I didn't. Even when I had like a front page Sunday story, I'm not even sure that was 4,000 words, but I don't remember. Um, and then the other thing that I've noticed is everybody is now doing content. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
When I grew up, they were what? 6 announcers on TV for sports. You knew 6 names, right?
Yeah.
There's like, I mean, there's like not that many. But today, there's 150 channels, 60 sports channels. Every league has their own channel. There's all these announcers. Some of them wouldn't have gotten a job 40 years ago,
Right.
right? And now they have a job. But nonetheless, we need editors. So what role can editors play in this new model when you're saying you don't? So first of all, I know you didn't mean it that way, Rob, but you said there's no need to edit for brevity and
No,
succinctness.
I
I
said
still
there's.
think there is.
I'm sorry. There's less emphasis on that.
There is
And
because
yeah, I think corporations and news outlets are less concerned about uh, the brevity, the power, the quality of
yeah,
of the content they put out there. It is
yeah,
more production, more getting it out there. And I know editors. I can speak from experience. Editors who were uh, turned from refining copy and making sure that it was accurate and correct and balanced, and then oh no, just go out there and produce this stuff, and we'll get it out there, and don't worry about whatever. We just need X number of words from you a week to fill up the website. And because there's such a voracious appetite for content, and because readers have become less discerning about what they take in, it, it's it has become de-emphasized the quality. It is more about quantity than it is quality, and that's unfortunate.
that is unfortunate indeed. And certainly, I'm a big advocate and believer in quality content. I don't remember if I just mentioned it earlier or not, actually, but John Mueller from Google actually said Google doesn't know what to do with fluff. Even if we
Mm.
crawl it, we don't know what to do with it. Like we're not, we don't know if like we don't know. It just confuses us. So don't
Well,
fluff
yeah, and
things up.
that's part of the problem with SEO is if you put the keywords in there, it doesn't matter if the keywords, it then becomes like a demolition derby or a traffic jam. It's just all this stuff out there, and it's not serving a real purpose, as you say.
Yeah. Absolutely. Last 2 minutes here. So,
Okay.
Rob, you are the principal and co-founder of WordStar Media.
Mhm.
I assume people can hire you there. Tell us what you do, how they can connect with you, and who should reach out.
Um, Anyone who wants superb editing. I say that in all modesty. I won ACE's 2019 Robinson Prize for excellence in editing, and basically their editor of the year, and I'm very proud of that. But I'm on LinkedIn, Rob Reinalda. You can find me on Twitter, word_czar. Why Editors Drink has a Facebook page. Come and join us there. And just you can email me at wordzarmedia@gmail.com. And let me know. I'm about to start working on another book. On editing someone else's book, a fellow I've worked with before. I'm working on a second book of my own, and I'm always happy for new challenges.
Fantastic. And what kind of work do you edit? Like if I have a content strategy for a corporate company, like a blog strategy, that kind of thing, or what do you?
Absolutely. Corporate stuff, nonfiction. One of the books I edited was a TV writer's memoir, working in sitcoms for years and years. And he's got another book coming my way. I love nonfiction, but I've edited fiction too. So anything, words are words, and messaging is messaging, and making sure that the words come through clearly and with power. That's what I'm all about.
Fantastic. I really enjoyed our chat, Rob. Great book.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed that as well. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you. And the book is available on Amazon and through BookBaby.
And we do have the link, of course, in the show notes. And if you are watching on Amazon, it is in the carousel. It's the featured item right there.
Fantastic. Thanks.
That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in. Please rate and review our show on your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to share this episode with your networks. We appreciate you. Until next time.